Good evening and welcome to the Late Night Business. My name is Ian Dennis, and tonight we have a very interesting show because I have with me a super lady. She's a CEO, actually been listed amongst the top 10 women CEOs in the real estate sector. She's literally worked with two of the biggest brands that I'll be talking to you about shortly. But before I get to introduce my guest, I'd like to let you know that you're here at the Capital Club, the place you need to be as an entrepreneur, because at the Capital Club, you have access not only to a wide variety of amenities, but you also have access to different clubs that are associated and affiliated with the Capital Club around the world, be it in Dubai, London, Mumbai, wherever it is. So once you're a member of the Capital Club, you have access to different clubs around the world. And also want to remind you that two of my books, one, Food for Thought, and the other, Business Conquest, they're actually out at textbook centers. You can go yourself, grab a copy. The lady I'm actually speaking about is Madame Sarah Wahogo, who's a CPAK. She's the CEO of Username Investment. She's also been the CEO of the Safaricom Investment Circle. And she's had a stellar career over the last 18 years. She's done quite a lot, and I love speaking to women who have actually literally prospered in the corporate sector. So, Madame Sarah, thanks so much for coming to the show.
Thank you, Ian Dennis.
Nice. Pleasure seeing you finally. I saw your profile. I was like, what? Okay. You've done quite well for yourself, and it's quite exciting, and I'm looking forward to a conversation. The first question I like starting all my conversations with, what exactly are you most grateful for today?
I'm so grateful for good health and life.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Speaking about life, you've had quite an interesting life over the last 18 years in the corporate world. Looking back, did you ever imagine that you'll be at the point you are right now?
Not at all. Mm-hmm. Not at all. When I was going through my career journey, I never thought that one day I would be a CEO, especially in the corporate world, the companies I've worked for are not my own organizations, because when you think that someday you will start your own company, then automatically you become a founder, CEO. But the organizations that I've headed have different directors, have different members, have different board of directors. Mm-hmm. Yes.
What were your dreams growing up? What did you want to become?
When I was younger, these things keep on changing.
Yeah.
So when I was younger, I wanted to be a doctor. And then at some point, I wanted to be a lecturer. Mm-hmm. Those are the two careers I can remember. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what changed along the way? Because I saw, coincidentally, also saw on your profile, you became a lecturer at one particular point.
Oh, yeah. Yes. I became a lecturer at some point. But, those dreams you have as a child, many times they don't materialize because as you mature and grow up, things change for so many different reasons. Yeah. You become exposed to different career lines or paths, and you realize there could be something better. Then, those are dreams as a child. So as you mature, they tend to be forgotten as you pursue other things, depending on the exposure, the people you meet, your family, and so many other things.
And just take me through your upbringing. How exactly was your upbringing? Where did you grow up in? What was your background? So that you can actually just trace this journey. Because I'm sure you just didn't land where you are today.
Yeah, quite interesting.
Yeah.
I call myself a village girl, and I know there are so many ladies in the corporate world who can actually relate to
what
me.
What village kulikuta Nairobi?
WhatsApp group yangu wanajijua. I was raised in the village, at a small village called Kwa Haraka in Nyandarua County.
Oh, kuna palinaitwa Kwa Haraka?
Yes.
Actually,
Haraka was a Mzungu. I understand the Mzungu would tell our parents, Haraka. So the Mzungu settled there, and that small shopping center was named after him. Really not his name, but
the term used to use.
Exactly. So I come from that place, and I was born and raised there. My parents were small-scale farmers.
Both your parents?
Yes, both my parents, my mom and dad. So I went to a nearby primary school. From my home to my primary school was like 5 minutes. So I remember me waking up and running to school. I could actually hear the bell, the school bell.
Oh, from your home?
Yes. So we grew up farming.
What are you farming?
Potatoes, peas,
Waru.
cabbages, exactly. When people talk about
Waru,
Waru,
Kwa Haraka.
I can relate so well.
Yeah.
And I remember my childhood, especially at home. We were brought up by disciplinarians. My parents were strict disciplinarians, especially my dad. So we started working very young. So as young as probably 7 years, I could wash my own clothes. I could sweep the compound. I could sweep the house. And I remember as early as at 8 years, in class 3, I had my small shamba where I could plant peas, take care of them, harvest, then my mom could sell for me. No, that's an 8-year-old child.
Oh, so at 8 you're a farmer by yourself?
Yes, I had a small shamba. So that's the kind of life I lived. I remember during school holidays, we could close school. Then the following day, you're in the shamba assisting my parents up to when I cleared Form 4.
Out of curiosity, when your mom used to sell for you, alikuwa anakupea pesa ama ilikuwa
hakuwa ananipea, so she could pocket.
She'll pocket your money after your hard work.
Yes, then she would buy clothes for me. So she would go to the market and buy some clothes for me.
Yeah.
But now, what happened with that, later on, I think she realized that I'm really focusing on the revenue, I mean what was coming from the shamba. So she, later on, after a year, she said, I cannot continue with farming anymore.
Why?
I think she felt like I was concentrating more on the shamba and not on school.
Yeah.
Yes.
And what are some of the lessons you can say you learned from your parents? Because it seemed they were modest farmers and they taught you how to do this. What are some of the lessons you look back?
Discipline and resilience. Because as much as they were peasant farmers, I cannot remember any single day when we were sent home for school fees.
So they sustained the whole family through farming?
Exactly. We never slept hungry. Only that we got the basic needs. You know, there was no extras in our family. But school fees was provided, food was there. But there was nothing outside that. So I could see my parents with very little education being very good financial managers. You know, they were able to educate. By the way, all my siblings went to the best high schools that time. And my dad would say that whatever school you are admitted to, I will ensure that you get to go there. So they appreciated hard work and they actually appreciated good performance as much as they were very strict disciplinarians. Yeah.
And where did you go to high school? How was the transition? What was it called? How exactly was that experience for you before going to university?
Yeah. So I went to the best high school in Nyandarua County then, which is Karima Girls High School. It's actually one of the national schools right now. Those days it used to be a provincial, one of the best girls schools. I was actually the best in my primary school that time.
You're index 1?
Yes.
I
was not index 1, but KCPE results I was position 1.
Yes.
Yeah, so I went to the best high school that time. So I got admitted to Karima, and it was a bit of a culture shock for me.
Why?
Because, you know, I'm a village girl. In my primary school, we used to speak in mother tongue.
Oh, so you translate Kikuyu to English.
Yes. So when I went to high school, I met these girls who were coming from boarding school, could speak very good English and Kiswahili. They were very well groomed. They had long hair. And that kind of struck me. And you know, as a teenager, it also affects you. But I thank God for that school, because then you get to become the best, to interact with the best, become the best, and just know that life can be much better. Yeah.
And how did you overcome that period? Because you mentioned it was a cultural shock.
Yeah.
You're this bright girl, but you come here, it's a different cultural shock from where you are. How did you adjust to that? Because I'm sure there's so many ladies probably even watching this who are wondering, you're maybe in the same situation as you are.
Yeah, so what I would say that what kept me going is because I knew what I wanted to be. And I remember in my primary school when we were having an end of high school, primary bash, there was one of our teachers who told us that when you go to high school, you will meet all these kind of girls, or rather students who are coming from well-off family, others are coming from very humble families, but that should not worry you as long as you get focused. Yeah, so that kept me going, and I was kind of ready. I knew that this would happen. So I just ensured that I remained focused, and I knew that where I had come from did not determine my future. Yeah.
And I presume also in high school you also performed well.
Yeah.
Were you not born?
No. You know,
I'm
now
only-
when you go to high school, you meet the brightest. You know,
Yeah.
the school used to admit the brightest girls and also the most beautiful.
Yeah.
You go to that school even today, you would tell
Oh.
that they are very bright and very beautiful girls there. So I also performed well, and I was admitted to Moi University.
Down Eldoret.
Yes, Eldoret.
To pursue what?
I pursued business management, and I specialized in finance and accounting.
Is it something that you wanted to, or is it something you stumbled upon?
Not really. I cannot say that it's something that I really planned, but it's also something I did not mind, because for a very long time I could hear people saying that accounting and finance is very challenging. So I also wanted to do something challenging.
Yeah.
And looking back today, probably that is the best decision that I ever made, to pursue finance and accounting. Yeah.
And life after university, did you get into employment directly? What exactly did you involve with? How did you start life and your career path?
Yeah, my first job was as a tutor. I don't call it lecturing. It's a tutor at a college where I was teaching basic accounting packages.
Here in Nairobi?
Yeah, here in Nairobi. Not only accounting packages, but also computer packages. And while there is when now I got interested in doing CPA, because that was also a college that was tutoring CPA students, you know, CASNEP students. Yeah, so that was my first job, and that job didn't have a retainer, by the way. You would get paid by the number of students that you had.
How now? How is it working?
It's commission based.
Uh-huh.
So if you don't have any new students.
So the students, you're supposed to bring the students?
No, actually they come from the other courses. You see, like CPA students would want to do the computerized accounting packages where you teach the basic Microsoft Word and the accounting packages. Yeah, so most of our students would come from the CPA classes, but you could also have a few, either from 4 leavers who are coming to buy time as they wait to join college or university. Yeah.
All right. And how was that experience? So probably you didn't have a salary, to just dependent on the number of... You literally started on the low end in terms of your career.
Exactly.
During that period, how are you feeling? What ambitions are you holding? Because you're finished university, all the dreams, hata kuna mshahara, you just...
Hakuna mshahara, but I was also happy that I actually took up the job. Because otherwise I would have tarmacked longer, and this is also the job that challenged me to do CPA, which was free in that college.
So because you're a tutor, you can do a course for free.
Yeah, then you could also befriend students who would assist you revise. When you're free, you could also join the CPA classes. You know, when you're free, and that would also mean that you could be able to go through the CPAs without really a lot of struggle, not really a lot of struggle, but you could be able to get support internally from the college to assist you pass the exams. Without paying.
It was a blessing in disguise.
It was a blessing in disguise. And it was, I would not regret any of those decisions. Yeah.
And for how long were you there, or did it until
I
you
was there
finished
for
the CPS?
5 years.
5 years.
Yes.
Also, literally.
I left there when I was in CPS section 5. Yeah. So just 2 sections to becoming CPK. Yeah.
And then after that particular transition, where did you move to?
After that transition, so when I was still teaching the packages there, I decided to change now to pursue finance as a career. So after that, I went to a local road marking company.
Road marking?
Yes, as an accountant.
Yeah.
So I started my accounting, or rather my finance journey there. So I worked there for a year. I didn't take a long time there. Then I got into petroleum industry, where I was also an assistant accountant. In that organization, I worked for about 7 years. And that is where I can say I learned so much in finance, because I started as an accounts assistant, where you do reconciliation, cash book reconciliation, payments and all those things. I was promoted to an accountant. By the time I was living there, I was a chief accountant. And these 7 years, I learned so much as an accountant, you know, accounts payable, accounts receivable, financing, you know, when you're looking for financing at banks, and actually books of accounts. When we talk about the income statement, you know, in school it's very theoretical, but now here you actually get to know how does an income statement look like, how does a balance sheet look like, what are the key ratios, what do they mean, because now you can actually apply them in the business. And you get to understand how does a good business, when a company is running properly and it's a stable organization, what should the books look like. That is where I can say that I got a lot of experience as an accountant.
And what are some of the, what's it called, because you mentioned that's where you started learning about the business and how a business is supposed to run and the ratios that are actually important for business.
Yes.
What are some of the key aspects that you learned from that particular experience that maybe enabled you to go to the next level?
What I usually say is that the world all around is about businesses. Even your company is about, it's a business. Hospitals are businesses, schools are businesses,
even churches are business,
even governments. Or no, maybe governments are not businesses, but there's also the aspect of numbers. The aspect of business, because when you have a project, you actually need to know what is the budget and so many other things. So I learned so much, and basically it's how organizations work. You know, when you talk about cash flows, when you talk about profit, you know, you can be able to say what is the most important. Is it the cash flow? Is it the profit? And you also get, because I also got to be able to be in charge of people, I actually started getting a lot of interest in learning about leadership. And I could do a lot of research. I could read so many books that when I look back today, eventually guided me to becoming the person that I am today. So today, when, for example, payments come to my table, I'm able to question so many things, because not because of the experience that I got as a CEO, but because of the experience I got back then as an assistant accountant, as an accountant. So I'm able to correct, I'm able to guide, I'm able to cancel or rather disapprove based on facts and on information.
So as an accountant, which are the most important numbers that you're always keen on?
When you get an income statement for a company, and an income statement should just be a one-page document. If you have 2-3 pages of income statements, you are not on the right path. Because you should, when you look at the income statement, remember the income statement shows your gross revenue, basically your sales. It shows your cost of sale, and it shows your
Net
expenditures, and it shows your net profit. So by just looking at that page for whatever company, if you give me that income statement today, I will actually tell you what is ailing the company. Many times you find that the cost of sale is extremely high, such that any other expenditure brings the performance to negative. So you can tell, is it that the expenses are too high, the cost of sale is too high, or the company is not making enough sales. So that can actually help you diagnose a company,
so the cost
and
of sales.
what is ailing. It can either be the gross sales, the cost of sale, or the overheads.
All right. And then after the experience within the petroleum company, that's when you went to Username the first time
Yes, I got an opportunity to work at Username as a finance manager. I went through a very rigorous interview process. I remember we did an oral, then we did some practicals, then we did written.
Practicals?
Yeah.
So you have to what is the practicals about?
Yeah, it will give you a case. It will give you some questions that will give you some business case of a project. Then you're supposed to determine the cost of sale, the net profit, and all those things. Then finally, there was a meeting with the directors, the very final meeting, which was in a hotel, actually just along Westlands Road. That's where our last meeting was. We were 2 of us as the finalists from probably more than 20 people. So they settled on me, and that is how my real estate journey began. Yes.
Interesting. And because I've seen such an interesting move from just being a tutor, was just being paid on commission, to getting into the petroleum industry, and eventually getting to real estate. Just looking back, what do you think you did right to make these particular moves?
So all through my career and basically my life, and I know it cannot be the same for everyone, I would say that I have been very consistent and very reliable and very disciplined.
Consistent in terms of?
In terms of, if you want to pursue something, you do it. You don't get tired. You see, I worked from an assistant accountant to the position of a chief accountant within 8 years. It's not a short.
It's a long time.
It's a long time.
Class 1 to class 8.
Exactly. So that is also training. And I think I was very patient at that time, and I was ready to learn. Because many times especially our Gen Zs, they want to make it within no time, which is not possible. Because later in life, you will need to make decisions based on your experiences, which is very critical. So I would say that I was patient to learn, and I wanted to learn. And I was also very reliable. I would say that whatever we agreed with probably my bosses, I would actually endeavor to implement and just ensure that it's done right. So it has been a journey of discipline, consistent, and resilience.
Interesting. All right, so on that particular point, you're going to take a short commercial break, and then after the break, you're going to find out how the villager eventually ended up becoming the CEO. So I'll see you after the break. Welcome back to the show. Before we went on a break, we've just been taking her through this particular interesting journey, how this Sarah literally went through from the village, came all to Nairobi, started off her career as a tutor, an assistant accountant, to becoming a chief accountant, and primarily you're just taking us through in terms of what exactly got you here, aspect of being reliable, being consistent in terms of your work. So once you got to Username, which is your first stint, how long were you there? How was that particular experience?
I was at Username for 3 years as a finance manager. And I got to learn so much about real estate. Remember, this was the first time
yes.
I was interacting with a real estate business. I learned so much, and I also learned so much again about people management, because at username there was a lot of appreciating members of staff for their effort, for their results. Yeah, so I got,
So it formed the expenditure.
yeah, of course, it
Yeah.
would form the expenditure,
Yeah.
but then the expenditure could translate into
To
the
revenues.
Yes.
And then, so you're there for 3 years, then you then ended up.
I moved.
Yeah,
I moved to Safaricom Investment Cooperative as the finance manager. I actually had not applied for the role. I was headhunted. You know, a recruiter called me and told me that there was this giant investment cooperative that is looking for a finance manager, and we think you are a good fit. Surprisingly, that time I was expectant, heavily expectant, by the way. And I said, why not? I applied and I attended the interviews. And what the panel told me when I joined that organization is that I performed way better than anyone else who was being interviewed. Probably above 80%, while my follower was at maybe 60 or thereabout. So I got to join Safaricom Investment Cooperative as the finance manager. But maybe this is very important to a lady out there. I know many people keep on asking, can you get a job as an expectant lady and all these kind of things. The board there actually allowed me to go for my maternity leave and join the organization.
That's good.
And that also tells you that when an employer values you and they know that you're the person they have been looking for, no, they will they will wait for you. And because I believe they really wanted me to join the organization, and they could not go for number 2. As I told you that the gap was really big. Yeah.
And what do you think made this particular gap extremely big? What do you think are some of the qualities that they saw in you that primarily they didn't see in other candidates?
Let me tell you, I remember during the interview at Safaricom Investment Cooperative for the finance manager, I demonstrated how I have led teams. And this is not theory, it was practical.
Yeah.
And I would actually just stop sharing the screen and I actually showed them that my department won the employee of the department of the month and so many other things. So they knew that I was the right fit for that role. Yeah.
And then when you got into that role, you stayed there for a short time before now you're selected to become the CEO.
Yes. Actually,
how did that come about?
When I joined, I was the finance manager for a year. Then I was appointed acting CEO. Yeah. So acting CEO, it means that you're not the substantive. Either you are unashikilia as you wait for someone
the right
else.
person to come. Yeah.
Exactly. But after 1 year again, I was confirmed as the substantive CEO. And you know, board-driven organizations and members-driven organizations are not easy to lead. But based on my track record at Safaricom Investment, I was confirmed. And maybe it's important to mention that when I joined the organization, the previous year, they had made a loss of around 80 million.
Oh, Sarko's making losses.
It's an investment.
It's an
investment cooperative.
Yeah. Oh, all right.
So they make losses because, of course, that means that the revenues and the cost of sale and the revenues were not as high. So the year I joined, because I joined in September, that year they made a 17 million profit. When I joined, that following year, they made over 100 million. By the time I was living there, the organization was making northwards of 200 million in profitability.
How did you make that turn from being loss-making to becoming profitable?
Number one, I decided to focus on people because ideally, people help you achieve the numbers. No, as a CEO, if you don't have a good team, you can't deliver the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So I ensured that I had the right people, people who were passionate, people who are not pulling in different directions, people who understood our vision and mission and were ready to support the objectives. Then we ensured that we had the best projects, you know, something that people would be very proud of. And that really worked magic because we had very driven members of staff and we had very good products, such as if you get a client, you are able to convert very fast. They are proud of the product and the members of staff are really motivated to be able to take care of the clients. So that also translated very well to very good customer experience because the environment was equally good for our members of staff.
So the products were primarily real estate products?
Yes, real estate products and something else that we were calling prepare, which is similar to money markets. Yeah.
And during that, because it's your first stint as the CEO, what did you learn about being a CEO? Because you've never been a CEO before. Yeah. And the first time around, you've literally made a big transition from a loss-making company into a profitable company. What did you learn from that experience?
Yeah, as a CEO, you learn that you are responsible for the whole organization, not like the way I was running a department previously. You know, as a finance manager, you're just focusing on finance. The finance department. As a CEO, you need to understand all the departments, how work. Could it be human resource, marketing, customer experience, and all those things, and how all the departments work towards a common objective. So, of course, it was not easy at first because I remember some of my directors would say that I'm just focusing on this and that. And for very obvious reasons, when you want to turn around an organization, you need to identify that one thing that you need to focus on. And it will give you the highest return, you know. You cannot be able to be everywhere. So that is what happened. I was pushed to learn quite a lot within a very short time. Remember, this is a members-driven organization, and the expectation of returns and all these things. You know, the pressure is too much. But I also learned that you can focus on one thing that would give you the highest, you know, something like the 20-80% rule. You know, this thing that you can give 20% of your attention and it gives you
80% of the return.
Exactly. Yeah.
And during that first stint as a CEO, what did you learn that is the biggest, or rather the biggest expectation of a CEO? What did you learn about it? Because initially you led departments, here you are as a CEO, you're in the process of turning it around. So for any person maybe who's about to walk into this seat as a CEO, what should they know about this particular role?
So what anyone needs to know about this role is that you need to be emotionally stable.
The feelings okay, kind of.
Exactly. Yeah. Because you're faced with difficult decisions. And of course, business decisions are actually not as hard as people decisions because business decisions are basically about numbers. But anything that involves the people is very, very delicate. And so I learned to be very emotionally stable. And I also learned to make decisions as quickly as possible. And most important, you know, trying out new things because people fear. And we all know that when you're trying something new, there's that inner voice that tells you, will it succeed, will it not? But remember, as the CEO, you need to define the strategic direction of the organization. And you cannot define that without innovation. So those are some of the lessons that I learned. And they apply for any CEO position in any organization. You know, handling people, understanding the business, emotional intelligence, speed of making decisions, yeah, and so many other things.
And in your stint, because eventually also you came back to your ex, who's now your current user.
Yeah.
How was that? How was it making that decision to go back to your previous employer?
Actually,
Because I always presume like people leave the employer to get a better pay. So personally coming back, was it because of a better pay? Was it a better? Why did you decide you have to come back to your ex?
yeah, what do I say? Making the decision for me was not a difficult one, by the way. I did not struggle because this is an organization that I already understood so well. I knew the directors, I knew what they stand for. I knew their deep desire to take this organization username to the next level. I had worked with them. I know their history, I know their background, and we had worked so well before. So making the decision was not difficult for me. It was also an opportunity where it was even easier to innovate. You know, the process of approvals was much faster compared to a members and a members driven
company and
exactly
members driven,
yeah. So I saw an opportunity to make things better through an even easier process. Yeah.
And being in the real estate industry, there's so much that goes on in that particular industry. The instances of fraud, the instances of people, what's it called, maybe transfers, things are not happening. How have you been able to juggle through the challenges within the real estate industry? Because there's so much that goes on. Because primarily username in the process of you're literally sell properties.
Yeah. What I would say is that I have experience, not only me, but our organization has been in the market for over 10 years without a single scandal. And with time, you get to learn so much. Yeah, so to ensure that you don't get into the pitfalls, you need to do proper due diligence, and that is where many people fail. Either you assume that because you're buying a property from your family member, no, it's clean, which many times it's not. So you need to ensure that you follow the due process of due diligence.
So what's the due diligence process?
The due diligence process is that you start with the first site visit, just maybe to check that this is the location that you would like to purchase a property. Then number 2, you do a legal due diligence. Legal due diligence, you will have an advocate check whether there is any legal history encumbrances on that parcel or property. Then there's also the surveyor's due diligence. And the surveyor will just check whether the physical location of your property actually lies the same as on the maps, the government maps. So this is very simplified the way I'm speaking to you, because then the legal and the surveyor's due diligence, there's quite a lot that comes under that. Like, for example, speaking to the local chief, speaking to the neighbors, going to the registries just to check, peruse the green cards, check the rims, whether the maps are updated, and so on and so forth. And that is why it's critical, if possible, to buy from a company. And to involve professionals. Because if you buy from a company, apart from the crooked companies that probably their aim is to con people, in case there's any issue with that parcel of land, they will ensure that as an investor, you don't lose. Yeah. So...
And from a company, how does one verify that this company isn't a fraud?
First of all,
there's those instances, because people prefer buying from a company because we trust the company, but some companies have always turned out to being a fraud.
Number 1, you need to check the physical location of the company. Please don't buy a property from a company that does not even have a physical location. You know, just go to the offices, confirm they have a physical office. Number 2, check the CR12. You know, CR12 shows who are the directors.
Yeah.
And you can actually be able to check the legal history of the specific directors. If you search, for example, Sarah Wahogo, on the internet, you get to know so much. If there are any cases, if this person was involved in fraud or this and that, you'll be able to see. But most important, check the company's social media handles, because you get to see all the reviews from the clients. And this is something you may not be able to hide as a company. You'll be able to see the reviews. Are the clients happy? Did they buy properties? Did they get titles? And most important, how long has this company operated? So if if it's a company that has operated for more than 10 years, you know that this is a company that has been tested and tried. Real estate, you must go through ups and downs, but how you handle them, most critical, is ensuring that your clients do not lose their money. Yeah, so you need to cover your clients at any single point in time. Then at the end of the day, you have happy clients who keep referring more and more business to you.
And one of the good things about real estate and precisely about land is how do you, get to identify the right parcel of land? What are some of the qualities that you actually look into? Because I think we were having a joke the other day when we were having flash floods. About the joke you realize your land was actually in a swamp. Yes. What are some of the elements that you look at, especially when you are trying to spot out land parcels?
So, you remember what we were talking about, the due diligence? When you engage a surveyor, they will actually tell you that this is a swampy or it will flood in case it rains. So, that is very important. But for the parcel that, or rather the property that you would want, it depends with your objective. What do you want to do? Is it farming? Is it a residential home? Is it a commercial? You want to put up a commercial development? Is it maybe for a resort or anything? So that now determines the location. So if, for example, you want a residential property, you cannot go to Namanga, So that also tells you that if you want some parcel for speculation, which probably you want something cheaper, many times you want something cheaper to sell in the future, then that one you get at a further location from the city. But location and your budget as well, because you can't say that you have 300,000 Kenya shillings and you want to purchase a property in Westlands, really. So it will depend with your objective. Why do you need this property? So then it comes the location, then it comes the budget. Yeah.
And in your role as the CEO, probably in charge of a real estate company, and just because you had the initial stint was as a financial manager, now you're here as the CEO. First of all, did you face any hindrances? Because I'm sure there's always the subject of familiarity. I look at finance manager for the people you left there. I'm going to come and see you. How, first of all, I forgot to ask that. How was that transition for you?
Yeah, actually, that thing is real. You know, some people you left them and you're back, and they would wonder now, this is the CEO. They would probably struggle to
adapt to that.
Exactly.
How did you handle it?
With time, I have learned to be, what I was telling you about emotional intelligence, I knew even before I joined, and it's something we discussed with the directors when they were hiring me. That issue came up because you left some of these people there.
The same position.
Exactly. Probably same position, same salary, you're back. Higher position, they're supposed to report to you. So it was expected, really. Nothing came as a surprise. So, and because I have also learned to handle people, I know how to handle them. Yeah, and I'm also a communicator. I keep telling my members of staff, if there's something that is making you uncomfortable, unhappy, just feel free to raise it. So with time, you create that psychological safety. Know that anyone, or even the people that you left, if they are not comfortable, they can feel free to come to me. And of course, as a CEO, I know it might take a bit of time for them to adjust, and it's perfectly in order with me. So I expected it, and I don't mind it.
And looking at your 18 years career that has been stellar, just what are some of the lessons you can actually share to anybody who's literally maybe starting off their career or in the middle of their career, in terms of maybe some insights to enable them eventually maybe get to the highest seat?
So I know I had mentioned the qualities probably for leadership, and not just for leadership, for anyone who wants to succeed in life. And what I did not mention is integrity, because you need to be a person of integrity to be able to succeed in life, for people to trust you, for people to be confident that they are giving you their baby, and you can actually take care of it as your own. Integrity, discipline, hard work, and resilience. If you can have those qualities, many times you don't have them, but you work towards them. It does not matter whether you are running your own organization, whether you are employed, whether you are the president of Kenya, whether you are the president of the United Nations or the most powerful president of the United States of America, you will succeed.
Integrity.
Yeah.
Before we get to wind up our conversation, I have like 10 quick fire questions. So I'll just be asking you whatever that comes to your mind, answer that. So the first
I
question.
can pass it.
There's no pass. You already passed your exams. So the first question, what's your hidden talent?
Hidden talent.
Yeah.
Design.
Oh, you can design?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Money or happiness?
Happiness.
Are you an introvert or an extrovert?
I have been an introvert for very long, but
You're adjusting.
I'm adjusting.
To the loud crowd like us.
Yeah.
Are you more of a thinker or a doer?
Both.
How do you usually start your day?
Prayer.
What scares you?
What scares me? What scares me? Death of a family member.
What's been your greatest risk you've ever taken?
Greatest risk, investment. Yeah.
Describe your style in one word, since you've said you're a designer. What's your style?
Style of?
You dress good. What's your style? How would you describe your style?
Simple and authentic.
What's one of your nicknames?
Ngunya.
Ngunya?
Yeah.
What does it mean?
That was actually my grandmother's name.
Yeah.
The person I'm named after. Yeah, so I got it from my family.
Alright. What's your go-to snack?
Go-to snack, fruit.
What's your favorite color?
Hot pink.
And the final... another question. Freedom or money?
Freedom.
And then the final question. Would you rather read a book or watch a movie?
Read a book. Anytime, any
What's
day.
your favorite book?
How to make friends, how to win friends and influence people. Yeah.
Interesting. I really enjoyed the conversation. Thanks so much, Sarah, for having come.
Okay.
Yeah, so next time tutakuja kwa ofisi.
Yeah. Please feel free. Karibuni sana.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks so much for having watched the show. We've learned a thing or two from our conversation. Hope you've been inspired to see just the village girl who came to Nairobi and literally ended up becoming a CEO. Quite an interesting conversation. As always, we're coming to you from the Capital Club, the place you need to be as an entrepreneur, because at the Capital Club you have a wide access of a wide access to so many different amenities. The meeting room, the restaurant, the bar, the spa, the gym. You can literally entertain your guests and literally run your meetings in here. And also like to remind you that two of my books, one Food for Thought and Business Conquest, are actually out at the Textbook Center. My name is Ian Dennis. You can follow me across all social media platforms at Ian Dennis Network, at KTN Home. Until next time, I'll see you right here on the Late Night Business on KTN Home. See you.